At the hospital, doctors didn't waste a second. "This is not a heart attack," one of them muttered, staring at the bullet wound. Whoever had called the emergency services had reported cardiac arrest. But this was a shooting, and someone had lied. Police were contacted immediately. Her name was Ilka. The neighbors said she lived quietly. No noise, no visitors, no drama. But inside her apartment, something was wrong. There was no weapon, no sign of forced entry, and most importantly, no mobile phone. Yet emergency services had been called from her number. A few hours later, a man walked into the hospital. "I came to check on Mrs. Ilka," he said calmly. The nurse narrowed her eyes. "What is your relationship to her?" "A close friend." He didn't ask how she was shot. He didn't seem shocked. He only asked if she would survive. "She lost a lot of blood," the nurse said. "We need donors." "I'll donate," he replied immediately. But when he noticed a uniformed officer entering the hallway, he left. Not slowly, not calmly. He disappeared. The police traced the emergency call. It came from Ilka's phone, the same phone that was missing. 2 roommates were listed under the apartment lease, both currently out of the country, which meant someone had been inside that apartment, someone close enough to know her number, someone who tried to stage a heart attack, someone who almost stayed to donate blood, but panicked. Now the only question left was Ilka the victim? Or was she supposed to die before she could speak? The next morning, her photograph appeared in the newspaper. "Police seek information regarding the death of Ilka M." A few hours later, a woman walked into the station. "I was her close friend," she said. "Ilka was divorced about 2 or 3 years ago." She explained that Ilka's husband had left her to marry another woman. The separation had shattered her. "She never recovered emotionally," the friend said quietly. The police took the ex-husband's information, but something didn't match. The mysterious man at the hospital had been short. Ilka's ex-husband was tall, educated, an agricultural engineer, different profile, different background. Still, they brought him in. They found him on an intercity bus. When officers stepped inside and called his name, he didn't resist. He didn't even look surprised, almost as if he had been waiting. He was 45 years old, recently released from prison, a long criminal record, theft, assault, violent behavior, but never murder. When they searched his belongings, they found Ilka's missing phone and a gun. Forensic results confirmed it. The bullet that killed Ilka came from that weapon. Case closed? Not exactly, because the man didn't behave like a killer. He was calm, too calm, not cold, not aggressive, just heavy, sad, worried. When the interrogator sat across from him, the room felt strangely quiet. "Explain everything," the officer demanded. The man lifted his eyes slowly, and what he said next would change the entire direction of the case. The interrogator leaned forward. "What was your relationship with Ilka?" Silence. "It was you who called emergency services. You said your wife had a heart attack. We found her phone in your possession. We found the gun. Explain everything." The man swallowed slowly. "I met Ilka almost a month ago." His voice was calm, not defensive, not aggressive. "I am a lonely person. I spent most of my life in prison. Theft, fights, bad choices. After I was released, I didn't want to go back. I wanted a different life." He looked down at his hands. "I wanted something pure, someone who could love me despite my past." He paused. "When I met Ilka, she paid attention to me. I was surprised. She knew about my record. She still talked to me. We chatted for 3 or 4 days. Then we exchanged numbers. She asked to meet in a cafe. His lips trembled slightly. I arrived an hour early. I was excited, like a teenager. He gave a broken smile. I had seen her photos. She looked happy in them, alive. His eyes darkened. But the woman who walked into that cafe wasn't alive. The interrogator narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? She looked like someone already dead. Her eyes, they didn't smile. Not even once. He took a deep breath. We talked for a few minutes. Then she leaned forward and said she had one request. The room felt colder. She said, "I want you to kill me." Silence filled the interrogation room. The officer stared at him. What? She said she didn't want to live anymore. She offered me all her money, everything. She said she had nothing left inside. His voice cracked for the first time. I thought she was testing me because I told her about prison. I thought she wanted to see if I was still a criminal. What did you say? The interrogator asked. I told her she was crazy. I refused. I told her I wanted a clean life. The officer leaned closer. Then why is she dead? The man lifted his eyes slowly, and for the first time, fear appeared in them. Because I didn't kill her. The man rubbed his forehead slowly. When she saw that I didn't know how to respond, she stood up to leave. He hesitated. She left $5,000 on the table. The interrogator stiffened. She paid you? I didn't understand anything, he said quietly. Who she was, what she wanted, why she wanted to die. He swallowed. I told myself maybe I could stop her, maybe I could help her. He looked up briefly. That night, I called her. We talked for hours. I told her not to do this, not to think like this. For a few days, we didn't speak. Then I called again. His hands trembled slightly. She asked me, "Did you think about it?" The room felt heavy. I have my own history, he continued. Years ago, I spent 4 months in a psychiatric clinic. I know what depression looks like. I know what it feels like when your mind turns against you. He exhaled. I thought if I refused completely, she would find someone worse, someone who wouldn't hesitate, someone who would hurt her or abuse her. So you went to her house, the interrogator said. Yes. She told me she was alone. He described the apartment. Her clothes were messy. The place felt lifeless. We drank coffee. Then she stood up. She told me to come to the middle of the room. He closed his eyes for a moment. She handed me an old cloth, like a shawl. The interrogator leaned forward. What did she say? She said, "Put this around my neck. Strangle me." Silence. She turned her back to me, sat on the floor, and shouted, "Do it!" His voice cracked. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen. He clenched his fists. I wrapped the cloth around her neck. I pulled. The officer didn't blink. She started gasping. Her body shook. His breathing became uneven. My hands trembled. I let go. He looked down. I couldn't do it. What happened next? She stood up, turned around, and slapped me. The interrogator frowned. She called me weak, said I was rude, asked why I stopped. He shook his head slowly. I told her, "I saw you suffocating. I couldn't continue." The room was silent. Then the interrogator asked the only question that mattered. If you didn't kill her, how did she end up with a bullet in her chest? The man looked up, and this time, there was real fear in his eyes. The man's hands were shaking now. When I failed to strangle her, she took the money back. The $8,000 she had promised. He swallowed. She told me about the man who left her, the agricultural engineer, the one who married someone else 3 years ago. His eyes looked empty. She said nothing meant anything anymore, that life had ended the day he left. I tried to talk her out of it, for hours, but it felt like speaking to a wall. There was no light in her eyes. He paused. That night, I didn't want to leave her alone. I was afraid she would harm herself. He cleared his throat. She slept on the bed. I slept on the floor. Nothing happened between us. I just stayed. The interrogator listened carefully. The next day she called again. She asked if I was still willing, or if she should find someone else. His voice grew heavier. She said the plan had changed. She wanted a gun. The room went silent. I told her I didn't have one. She said she would pay. A few days later, they met someone in a secluded place. She paid cash, took the gun. Then her phone rang. The interrogator leaned forward. What did she say? She answered and said, "I'm walking on the beach with my killer." The officer's jaw tightened. Who was on the phone? I don't know. He continued. When we reached her house, she told me to wait. She took a shower, dried her hair, wore a clean white dress. He closed his eyes briefly. She prepared everything. Gloves for me. Removed her phone password. Put the money on the table. She told me not to leave until I was sure she wasn't breathing anymore. The interrogator's voice lowered. And then she lay on the bed, calm, like stone. She told me to aim at her heart. She placed a pillow on her chest. His breathing became uneven. I had fallen in love with her. In that 1 month, I really had. He pressed his palms together. I bent down and kissed her forehead. I couldn't aim at her heart. He looked at the interrogator. I thought maybe if I shoot somewhere less fatal, she would survive. Maybe she would finally understand she wants to live. The interrogator whispered, "So you pulled the trigger?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "When I fired," she screamed. His voice broke. She looked shocked, angry, hurt. She said, "Why didn't you finish it?" Tears filled his eyes now. "I called emergency services. I lied and said a heart attack. I panicked. I didn't know what to do." The officer asked the final question. "Did you intend to kill her?" The man stared at the table. "No. I intended to save her." The interrogation room was silent. The man had finished speaking. He looked exhausted, broken, not like a murderer, but not innocent either. The interrogator stood up slowly. "You're telling us this was all her idea?" "Yes." "You're telling us you tried to save her?" "Yes." The officer stared at him for a long moment. Then he placed something on the table. Ilka's phone, the same phone found in his pocket. "We read all her messages." The man's breathing stopped. "There was something you didn't know?" The officer pressed play. A recording. Ilka's voice, clear, calm, almost cold. "If you are hearing this, it means he did it." Silence in the room. The man's face turned pale. The recording continued. "This man thinks he loves me. He thinks he is saving me. But he is exactly what I need. The man who left me destroyed my heart. But this one will destroy his own life for me." The interrogator watched him carefully. "You see," he said quietly, "she recorded." The man whispered, "No." The officer continued. "She searched online. How to stage assisted suicide as murder." Another document appeared. "And she transferred all her remaining money. Not to you." The man's eyes widened. To her ex-boyfriend. The officer nodded slowly. She wanted him to know, to feel guilt, to feel fear, to think he caused it. The room felt suffocating. You didn't save her, the interrogator said. You completed her plan.